Howdy, Full Metal Cowboy Straight shooting a review of High Rise. This is a British independent film that was released in 2015, and I saw this 3 years ago in May of 2016 at a Seattle International Film Festival theater known as the Egyptian Theater in downtown Seattle, which I actually do recommend you actually give the place a shot if you ever find any screens that may interest you, because that theater is quite fancy if you ask me. And I would like to share a little story as to how I ended up seeing this film at this particular theater. It was because a friend of mine really likes Tom Hiddleston as an actor. I don't blame her. He's really good looking as an actor, and he delivers good performances. So I can see why she really likes that actor. But the cool thing about this particular screening is that before High Rise was screened, there was a 35mm film presentation of Radiohead's Daydreaming music video. How often do you hear a music video screened at a theater in 35mm film? I actually think that was kind of cool. And that's the end of my little rambling about the music video presentation, because this is a review of High Rise, after all. But there is a little connection between those two, because that was my experience of seeing High Rise for the first time. I was originally going to review High Rise after finishing my series of Radiohead reviews, which did take over a year to finish. But at the time I was going into High Rise, I just didn't feel ready to review the film. And this is because of how I responded to it in my initial viewing. So I wanted to let time settle and just wait until I feel ready to review it again. And I did find a reason to watch the film again because of a certain thing I'm planning on releasing as well shortly after this review. And when I finally sat down and watched High Rise again, my thoughts on the film remain the same since my initial viewing. And I'm just going to preface this by saying that High Rise is not a film for mainstream audiences. The independent film-going crowd is probably going to go into this more than the mainstream audience. And another thing to consider about High Rise is that there was an attempt to adapt J.G. Ballard's novel of the same name in the late 70s. So there are people that have been trying to adapt this book into film for decades. And then Ben Wheatley stepped up, took the reins, and directed a film adaptation of High Rise. Now, I do want to point out that I have not read J.G. Ballard's novel of the same name, so I don't know how this will fare out in comparison to the book, but I am looking at High Rise as a film, not a comparison between book and film. It's probably going to be a long while until I read J.G. Ballard's High Rise, because after my second viewing of the film adaptation, I'm just going to be upfront here. I did not like High Rise. I found this a really boring film. And I greatly stress this throughout the entire first half of High Rise. This film is 2 minutes short of the 2-hour runtime. The first hour was slow. I struggled while watching this, not only in my initial viewing, but in my second viewing. Now, I'm aware that this film does tackle themes of wealth and social class, which ties into the titular high rise that Dr. Robert Lane and other residents reside in. I just wish the themes were more interesting in terms of execution. But High Rise does have its merits. The cinematography is outstanding in High Rise. There are great shots in this film. And I would say you're going to get the best enjoyment out of High Rise by its cinematography alone. The editing could have been better. At least this film is visually appealing, and that's the only good thing I can say about High Rise, because everything else I don't like about this film. I want to talk about another thing I really didn't like about High Rise. The characters. Sure, Robert Lane's a doctor. Sure, we have a pregnant wife as a character. Sure, we have a documentary filmmaker as a character. But that's about it. Yes, they live in a high rise. Yes, things get really fucking crazy later on, but I never could latch onto these characters. Now, sure, this film is thematically driven than character driven, and that could be the defense towards High Rise. But the thing is, I was never able to latch onto the film because of how fucking boring High Rise is. A film like 2001: A Space Odyssey has concrete aspects in that film, but it also has certain aspects that is left open to interpretation, and that is how Stanley Kubrick designed 2001: A Space Odyssey. Ben Wheatley designed High Rise, although an adaptation of J.D. Ballard's novel of the same name, as a metaphorical film. The execution of the entire film did leave audiences polarized. Some people really like High Rise, but some people really don't like this film. It's well shot, it's well cast, but I found this film boring. That's about it. High Rise might get a second review from me, but I do not feel compelled to watch this film again anytime soon. Maybe in a year or so, but time can only tell, and if I am interested in giving it a second review, but I'll have to see. I'm going to be shooting a 4.5 out of 10 for High Rise. And that is my review of High Rise. If I'm giving this film a second review, I hope it's still on Netflix because I have no intention of purchasing this film at all. I'll be reloading for my next review, so until then, I'll see you later.